Callahan's Corner, where you ask the questions, answer them live right here on Facebook. Got a email submitted question by Angie this morning. Angie writes, "Good morning. I remember you showing me how to build a cleanup estimate with pricing in Service Autopilot, but simply can't remember. Any chance you have a video on how to actually do it?" So I clarified if Angie this morning wanted an exact price or a price range when she was quoting her cleanup estimate, and she said she wants an exact price. And she's looking for bed cleanup, pruning, trimming, bark application, pre and post emergent for weeds, all an exact price range. So, Angie, good news is this can be tackled pretty quickly in just about any software. I'm going to show you how we do it in a blueprint and then actually get it into Service Autopilot. So, Callahan's Corner's question today is going out to Angie. So, first thing I'm going to do is open up my screen and hop into the Simple Growth Blueprint here. So knowing Angie and her company, working with them, we're probably going to go in and drive her revenue goal at about, for the maintenance division, at about $65 an hour. And they'll probably break it even, my guess is somewhere around $42 per man hour. So we've already established our revenue goal and our break even for that division. So what we're going to do is tackle her first question here on there is probably going to go in and take a look at how many minutes she thinks it's going to take based on the square footage of the bed. So actually, we'll go in for the pre and post emergent spraying as well. So this can be done on square footage, linear feet, however you want. But we're going to go in and drive that in here for Angie. So that's going to be our roundup per minute. That's going to be our post emergent. It could also be the same way for a pre emergent if we're spraying it. If we are not spraying it, let's go in and tackle her pre-emergent as well. So as we're going in, we're driving in some pre-built formulas. So if you're working with us on an SA setup or deep dive, this is kind of how this all lays into the program. So right now she's got her roundup per minute. We'll base it on how many minutes she thinks it's going to take. And we're going to go in and do our bed emergent. And we're going to build some matrices around here. So the next one she had was based on mulch installation. So we're going to go in and I'll build this one on the fly here, but I'm going to grab a template here. So the idea is we want to blueprint these out before we actually do them to confirm our projected profit and profit margin. So what we're going to do is go in and create this one as shrub pruning, and we'll be able to iterate off that, and then I'll tackle the mulch as well. So to answer Angie's question here, we're going to tackle our bed post-emergent, then pre-emergent, obviously probably not in that order, but that's the way I pasted them in. So we've confirmed that she wants $65 an hour. Her cost per operating hour is, let's say, $42.35. That number is now driving through our blueprint. So the first question I've got to ask Angie is, what is your product cost on the actual post-emergent non-selective herbicide? So we'll call that a roundup. So if there is 125 ounces in the jug, or the cost per jug is 125 and there's 64 ounces in there, what we can do then is literally go in and take a look at it and drive through this formula. What is her cost for the whole entire 4-gallon backpack? So what we've done now is driven the cost per gallon and then the cost per minute per spraying into the actual equation. So for 1-to-1, it's going to be 1 minute divided by 60 should give us 0.02. So that's how we would go in and drive the labor cost with materials, overhead recovery, everything loaded in. So now an estimator can look at a landscape bed in our first step of estimating, which would be our guesstimating based on experience. And then eventually, Angie, you'd want to roll into a square foot production rate. And I'll show you how we do that with the pre-emergent, depending where you're at in your estimating journey. So I'm going to kind of show you both of those. So right now, based on 1 minute and the cost per minute for that 4-gallon backpack, It's gonna be about $1.23. So just to break even, she's got to be charging $1.23 per minute. So she's at about $1.65. That's going to get her to a 25% profit margin. So in that maintenance division, I think they're running around 30%. So I'm going to go in at about $1.75. Now, the other question here is if you want, and I'd recommend, do we have a base price? So what's the minimum to show up? So I would probably say this is $1.75 for 1 minute, and that's about a 30% profit margin. But I'd say, Angie, what is your minimum to show up for that bed pre-emergence? So let's say she has a minimum of $45 per visit. So what we would do then is go in and take our break even or our budgeted hours and say, okay, 45 divided by 60, which is 0.75. And then we would need to go in and make some assumptions on, okay, if it's costing her 32.48, that's going to get her about a 40% profit margin. So if we go in and say, hey, our base price is 50, it's 35% net. And then what we're going to do here is go in and readjust our formula and take our 1 minute times our break even. And with a little math here, we can add in the product cost per minute that we figured out based on her actual product cost off to the right. So now we've got production rate, overhead recovery, and material recovery without any markup. But we could mark that material up if we wanted to. Traditionally, you're not going to have that in a chemical situation. So what we've got is the ability now for Angie's team to go out and put in how many minutes they think it's going to take here. And the final part is that right there. So between 1 and 45 minutes, Angie's charging $50. Should take 45 minutes or 0.75 man hours, and labor, overhead, and materials is costing her $32.28. And each additional minute over the 45 minutes, she needs to charge $175. It should take 0.02 hours, which is a minute, and it's costing her $149, giving her a 14% profit margin here. So with that math, if she wanted to be closer to 30%, she could go in and manipulate those numbers here in the blueprint to get as close as she wanted to. So I'm not going to waste the time doing that, but that's how we base it on time. Now, if we're going in as a bed pre-emergent, going to be the same idea. So bed pre-emergent here, we're going to go in and change this to bed square footage. And I'm going to say Angie's base price is up to 500 square feet for a bed. Let's actually make it 1,000. So up to 1,000 square feet, it should take 0.05 man hours based on a production rate there to actually lay down that bed pre-emergent. And obviously, you want to make sure these production rates are accurate for your company, so don't copy these right out of the sheet. And then what is her base price to show up that bed pre-emergent? So I would say it's probably still 50 based on the post-emergent charge. I would manipulate this every 1,000 down to every 100 square feet and go in and manipulate the production rate here of here. So that every 100 over 1,000 is an additional $4.17. And she's charging us. So we've got our information in here, and we've got our margins in here, but what we haven't figured out is our product cost. So let's assume that our bed pre-emergent is not a liquid like in the example above. So we're going to get rid of that. But we're going to go in and use a something like a snapshot or a preen. But we're going to go in and use, let's say our cost, our bag is $85. It's a 50-pound bag, and the coverage is 8,500 square feet. There is no markup. The coverage is going to be 100%. So in that scenario, based on these fictitious numbers, her cost per 1,000 would be $10. So what we'd want to do then is go in and make sure that our cost per 1,000 here would be accurate. So that would go in there, and our budgeted cost here, since we're doing it every 100 square feet, divide that by 10 parts. That would be her charge. So she's at a $10.31 here. So we can go in and actually manipulate that if we wanted to be at $8, say per 100 square feet or whatever that was. And that's our margin right there. So obviously some of these numbers are fictitious, but this is the process you're going to go through. You're going to go in and set your hourly rate, your break even, and you're going to figure out your product cost, liquid or granular, and drive that into the system, especially if you're using Service Autopilot. Final part here is our shrub pruning. That's going to be our parent service. And we're going to go in and we would tackle this as the number of small, medium, and large shrubs, traditionally with production rate. But let's just use the example of that Angie may have been using there is, let's say how many hours it actually is going to take. So maybe we're not ready for production rate based estimating. That's something we obviously can help you with and give you those industry production rates. But this is usually the biggest question is, what if we did shrub pruning? So we go in and build our shrub pruning man hours, and then that is going to be our custom field. Same methodology. All we need to do is say, what's our base price to show up? So Angie's charging $275. That's her minimum to show up. And what the sheet does now is automatically calculates the hours that are budgeted and the matrices with the overhead recovery. So it's easy as that once you build these formulas in, and that's what we've been doing on our deep dive and essay setups here. So we're going to base that shrub pruning on the shrub pruning man hours. And that's going to be a subservice of that. Now that's where we could also break in our small, medium, and large shrubs. So Angie's final question here, and I'm just going to copy and paste this for speed, is we're going to build out, maybe we'll build out, let's see, we can grab this whole thing. We're going to grab this format here, and I'm going to build out a mulch installation for her. So let's just say this is mulch. Installation, and our custom field would be bed square footage. So as we're going in here, we probably do not want to include the materials in here. There's some instances you may, but right now I'd say, Angie, what is your base price for the mulch installation? So let's say she has a 3-yard minimum, and we're doing a 3-inch depth. So that would be 1 to 300, and then that'd be 1 to 300 and every 100 over the first 300. Basically, if we're using an industry average, that should probably take 3 hours and 1 hour per yard installed. And that is going to be $195 based on the 3 hours. So she's got about a 34 to 35% net margin on the labor, which is jiving throughout the sheet here. So now we've got some consistency how to check our profit percentage. So when we go into a product like Service Autopilot, unfortunately on the service level, and I don't think any of the other softwares as well do this for you. So this is why we really recommend blueprinting in this. And if you're a business owner looking to delegate and get some of this stuff off your plate to a VA, an admin, or a manager, this is really going to be essential here for you. So what we're going to do is go in and add a service. Now we're going to make some custom fields. That's our first process, but I want to show you something really quickly here is this is the data table that drives that. Nowhere in here does it tell you your profit or profit percentage. So it's really essential to be able to go into something like the Simple Growth Blueprint and confirm your profit and profit percentage, especially if we're working with post-emergent like Roundup or bed pre-emergent. We've got some product costs, whether it's granular or liquid here, liquid or granular. And we really want to be able to drive that in. Now, the chemical applications are the one exception inside at least Service Autopilot that you do want to include those on the actual service level themselves. Everything else like mulch, pine straw, design build, things like that, we want to keep the product separately, but there is no good way of tracking that, and it's going to lead to some inefficiency as far as delegating the estimate. So right from Service Autopilot's development, they do recommend including this. So this is going to be the best practice that I do agree with here. So the first thing we're going to do is go in and Service Autopilot here, foundationally from the beginning for Angie here is, Angie, you're going to want to make some custom fields. So we go in, and Angie, if you've worked with us before, obviously, just confirm that these custom fields are not there. We do want to duplicate them, just like we've duplicated a lot of these in my test account. So her first one is going to be the number of backpacks. And I would just say, we'll put Roundup. The client's not going to see this, but we want to be able to go in and build that out. So it's going to go in, we're build the name associated to the customer, and it's going to be a number. I'm going to go in here and just put a couple threes in front of it so I can find this quickly on this Facebook Live and this test account. I need to clean it up a little bit. Next one's going to be our bed square footage. So we're just walking down the blueprint and we're just dropping them in as they lay. Once again to the number, save and new, And our last one, I believe, is our shrub pruning man hours. Now you'll notice as I'm going down the sheet, I got bed square footage twice. No need to make 2 custom fields. It will double dip for this process. So this is literally kind of diving under the hood of what a 7-figure business should be doing, really a half 250 and up. You really need to drive these things in here. You will be the bottleneck, and you will not be able to make that non-emotional delegation and non-emotional pricing without this. So the next thing is we're going to go into gear icon services. Then we're going to go back to the blueprint. We're actually going to build out our services here. So this is what we're doing. We're driving it in. So Angie, hopefully this is helpful, but we're going to go back to the Simple Growth Blueprint. You should have a copy from when we worked previously. But we're going to go in and grab our roundup per minute. We're going to add that service. These are all the areas that we need to select to make this work. We're going to go on our rate matrix here, quantity rate times visits, and I'm going to go right back to our custom field here and pull that in and literally copy the top 5 lines and the bottom lines. So 1, 2, 45 minutes is Angie's base price of $50. That includes 0.75 man hours, I believe. And it's costing her $32.28 labor, overhead, and material. So that is the number that she wants to be doing. And every 1 minute over the first 45 minutes, she needs to charge $2, and it's going to be 1 minute. And that 1 minute with material, labor, time, overhead is now costing her $1.49. So we've done is created our pre-emergent for Angie. We're going to save and new and walk down the sheet here. So we've got our actually, that's our bed post-emergent. We're on to our bed pre-emergent. Same exact process. We need a code. We need a service mode. Is it taxable? Is it not? Invoice description needs to be selected to an account. We need an estimate description, and we need to go into our rate matrices. And we're going to grab our bed square footage. And ignore those 3s and fun. Obviously, I'm just doing that right now for speed and simplicity. Top 5 lines are going into SA. 1 to 1,000 is $50. And it is going to take us 0.05 and costing us $11.99. And every 100 square feet over the first 1,000 for our bed pre-emergent, which is a granular with the product built in here on the left, is going to be $8 and 0.005. That is costing Angie and the team $1.20. So if you have questions, you want us to kind of demo how to do this inside Service Autopilot, let us know. But we do this with hundreds of companies each year in here. So for simplicity here, because I have a meeting in a minute, I'm going to grab our pruning. We already have an example for pruning, just like the backpack. Last one I'm going to do here is our mulch installation. We're building this out, and now we are going to drive this all into a estimate template here in a second to bring it all the way across the finish line for everybody watching. And that is bed square footage. And we're going back. 1 to 300 is $195 in labor. 3 hours, and that's costing Angie $127.05. And every 100 square feet over the first 300, so after our 3-yard minimum, that is $65 in 1 hour. And $42.35, it's costing us. So save. Last part of this that we're doing is we're going to be driving this all home into a scalable process. So now what we're doing is going back to the Simple Growth Blueprint. If you need some help, feel free to drop us a line or check us out at simplegrowthsystems.com. But what we're really doing now is we're going into the gear icon and we're grabbing our job estimate templates. We are going to create a new one here. Facebook Live Angie. All right, she's got her name in here now. both, and we're going to connect this to a estimate document that connects our email, estimate document, and our acceptance email. And what we're going to do is now go in and add the services from top to bottom. So roundup per minute is our first one. Obviously, we name this a little bit different if we were showing it customer facing, but for today's example, this is just fine. And our bed pre-emergent. Now, this would probably, in my opinion, be put together in a package. So we could actually go in and apply those different applications in a set start to end round. But for this example, I'm going to do is set services, and we're going to go in and grab our mulch installation. And now we've got our 3 services that were built out in the live show here. We're going to save and close, and then we're going to drive in some workflow. So we go in, go to our tester. Ideally, you'd want to create a form to capture these custom fields and plug it into the on-site form in the mobile. And then when you open up this estimate, they are going to drive in there automatically. But for time right now, I've got Simple Growth Financial meeting here in about 2 minutes. So I want to make sure that we're not missing that. So we're going to go in and add a template. That template now is going to connect to our estimate email, estimate document, and acceptance email. And Angie, where's your template? There we go. All the service committed. And if we had a on-site estimate form, we would be filling out the form and the data would come in. So let's say I thought there was 35 minutes for the spraying per visit, and our bed pre-emergent is based on square footage. So let's say I got a 600 square foot bed here, and our mulch installation measured was 900 square feet. And we would want to go in on the template most likely, but you could select it on the fly here. You would go in and grab your hardwood mulch. And since there's 9 hours here and we're using that production rate, that would be 9 yards of mulch that we're charging $50 a yard. It's costing us 38 with a profit margin markup of 24%. So we're going to go draft a quote on all of these. Now, Angie, if you're quoting in a package, you may have multiple rounds, or if you're doing it separately, at least in my area, I may have 8 visits for that post-emergent. So this would be bed maintenance, eight visits. Now, obviously, you want to dial this all in on the template, but I just want to ask or answer her question live here. So next thing, you're going to hit save and close. I'm going to email this to myself so you can kind of see what the finished product looks like. Any comments or questions, drop them right to us on Facebook here. We're happy to answer them, just like we did Angie's pre-submitted question actually by email. So if you're a client of Simple Growth and you have some questions around this, let me know. And we are just waiting for this email to come on the other screen, and I will pull up the actual estimate. And time-wise here, we may just, looks like I did not send it. So that would be part of the problem. All right, so we're going to hit email. Got a pre-templated email, and we're going to hit send. And with any luck, that email will be in my inbox, and I can show you what the live version actually looks like of this email. Little known fact, too, with these estimates here sent through Service Autopilot, they're a live editable doc, so you can do actually changes in it until it's accepted or won. So that is actually going to be a massive benefit here. So as we're going in, I'm pulling this over from my email that just came over less than a minute. We're going to click View My Proposal, and this is the answer to Angie's question. So we've got our bed pre-emergent, 8 visits, or post-emergent, 8 visits. We've got pre-emergent. I would suggest building this in a package, Angie. And we've got our mulch installation is here. So best practice would probably have 2 columns. That's the way we traditionally build that out when we set these up for folks. That estimate grid can be a little bit tricky. So I'll definitely make a video in upcoming videos, how to actually manipulate the estimate grid to get it to show how you want for your maintenance, fertilization, design, build. They're probably all different grid views that you want to put together. So appreciate you coming out today. Callahan's Corner, you asked the questions. We answer them live right here on Facebook.